Here I am. I didn't expect myself to be seeing all these things around me. But here we are. I'm going to start with a poem, not my poem, but with a poem of Mohammed Darwish, the Palestinian poet. As you prepare yourself for the breakfast, think of others. Don't forget to feed the pigeons. As you conduct your wars, think of others. Don't forget those who want peace. As you pay your water bill, think of others. As you go home, your own home, think of others. Don't forget those who live in tents. As you sleep and count the planets, think of others. There are people who have no place to sleep. As you liberate yourself with metaphors, think of others, those who have lost the right to speak. Think of yourself and say, I wish I were a candle in the darkness. I thought this is one of the ways by which we remind ourselves of the apparent and illusory stillness that we think we are all condemned into. But really, the mind is as cluttered and the spirit is as distracted and appropriating the world from its very safe and place that does not allow us to think of those images that should haunt us, hoping that you and I could also be one of those walking in the streets of this country, of this world, taking the burden of the greed and the frenzy with which we go on appropriating ourselves and the world. It is in that little context that I am beginning to read a poem that I wrote addressed to a friend. I'll first read in Gujarati and then the English translation. And then I hope that friend from Allahabad will join me in rejoicing the way we sing together, dream together, and share each other's joys and sorrows in making sense of the life that we lead. Here is just a small gesture on my part. દોસ્ત, સાંજ ફરી પાછી આવી છે. ઘરના ખૂણે, દિવાલે, બારણે, અને ચૂપચાપ બેઠો છું આ બારીમાંથી સરકી જતા તડકાના રંગબેરંગી રૂપોને જોતો. થાય છે, ચાલ તને દરિયે ફરવા જવાના સંદેશા મોકલું અને માંડીને આમ અમસ્તા જીવનભરની વાતો કરું. કહું કે અમારો સંસાર છે, આમ વ્યવસ્થિત છે, લોહીલુહાણ છે અને પૃથ્વીના અનેક છેડે વિસ્તરેલો પણ છે. આમ બરાબર છે, વિહવર અને ક્યારેક શાપિત છે, પૂર્વજોથી પ્રકાશિત અને મિત્રોથી ભર્યો છે. અને એક દીકરી છે, અંતરને હંમેશા અજવાળતી. જરાકમાં તો બારીમાંથી ઉડી જતી, વરસાદ પડતા જ ઘરમાં અને ઘરના લાકડાના ઘોડા સાથે ગેરહાજર દોસ્તારો સાથે ભીંજાઈ જતી. બારાખડીના દોરે ભાત ભાતની મારાઓમાં અમને સૌને સાંકરતી, તાજી નાકની ટોચે નાભીના કમરમાંથી પ્રગટેલી. અને ત્યાં ચરકતા વાસણોના ખખડવાથી ઊભા થતા ખાસ્સા અવાજો. પાડોશી હજુ હમણાં જ કંઈક કહી ગયા અને મૂકી ગયા. ચિત્ર વિચિત્ર ભણકારા ખરતી ભીંતો પર થાપતા ગયા તાણામાણા સહવાસના. કહું કે આમ તો અમે સલામત છીએ, કરચલીઓના વરમાં ઉઘડતી કડીઓની વચ્ચેની સ્થિતિમાં માનભેર છીએ. તને કરવી છે વાત આવા બે ચાર ચમત્કારોની. નિરાતે અહીં શ્વાસે શ્વાસમાં વસતા અજાણી દિશાઓમાંથી સ્વપ્નમાં કે રસ્તા પર આમ અચાનક એક દિવસ અને બીજા દિવસની વચ્ચે ભીંત પર પડછાયા પાડતા જીવતા જાગતા સંસારના હોવાની ને ન હોવાની વાત. આ સાંજે થયું છે, ચાલ તને પણ બોલાવી દઉં, બેસાડી દઉં અહીં સાવ પાસે, છેક તારી અંદર ઉતરી જાય એવી આપણા સૌની સ્થિતિની વાત જાણે તને કહી દઉં. સાંજે વિચારે ચડી જાય છે મન, વેરવિખેર ફોટોગ્રાફ્સ, ફણગાવેલા કઠોળ, વારસાગત વહીવટોમાંથી સરકી લસરી છેક હથેળીમાં આવી બેસી જાય છે અને ઘેરના વાદળ છવાય તે પહેલાં તું જાણે તું પણ હાજર થઈ જાય છે. અને ગુલમહોર રાતા થતા હોય અને કાન નજીક આવ્યા હોય અને સંસારનો રણકાર રાત ઓરંગી પેલે પાર પહોંચે ને આપણને સૌને સાંકળે એવું તો છે જ નહીં, પણ અજંપાની વાત અચાનક પવનના ઝોકે સળગી જાય છે અને ફફડી ઉઠે છે હોઠ, ફરકી ઉઠે છે ડાબી આંખ અને ઉંબરા પર અટકી જાય છે તને કહેવાની વાત. પણ કહું કે આવી સાંજે આકાશ ઉતરી આવે છે ઘરમાં અને લઈ જાય છે અહીં ત્યાં બધે. હમણાં જ હનુમાન કૂદકો મારીને સાંજ ખંખેરીને એક વહાલો હાથ મીઠરાઈ વરસશે. હમણાં જ જરાકમાં તો પંખીઓના ઘેર પાછા ફરવાના કલબલાટમાં જોડાઈ જશે આપણા સૌની નાની મોટી વાર્તાઓ. જાણું છું તારા અહીં ક્યાંક હોવાના ભણકારા સાંભળું છું, પણ ક્યારેક હોવા ન હોવાના ચમત્કારમાં સાંજે આમ જ બેસું છું. અને હવે આ બેઠા પછી સ્મિતાને કહીએ કે આપણને જોડાય એના કવિતાના પાઠમાં, એની વાતોમાં, એના પોતાના સંદેશામાં અને એના પોતાના શબ્દમાં. ઇન યોર વર્ડ્સ Smita, he will add you. We want you to be here. Okay. Can Smita come in, please? Yes, Smita. Time. At 75, you are still learning how to use these mechanisms and these technologies. But here, Smita, please come in. Good to see you.
नमस्कार प्रभु जी.
देखो मैं भी अब पहुंच ही गया हूं आपके पास.
हाँ देखिए, वर्चुअल वर्ल्ड ने हम दोनों को मिला दिया पहली बार, है ना?
वैसे मैं ट्रेन से आना ज्यादा पसंद करता, और स्टेशन पर आप ले आते होते तो साथ में मिलकर पहली तो एक फिल्टर कॉफी पी लेते साथ में.
चलिए, तो पहल हो गई है वर्चुअल वर्ल्ड पर. अब ऐसे भी होगा, आप ट्रेन से आएंगे, आप प्लेन से आएंगे और हम आपको जरूर ले चलेंगे और हम लोग दोनों बैठ के खूब कविता डिस्कस करेंगे और खूब फिल्टर कॉफी पिएंगे.
Please begin with your poems.
जी. So in the beginning, of course, I would like to thank Ashwini, my friend Ashwini, and Kitab Khana, Mansi Shetty, Indian Novels Collective, for coming up with this very challenging for me, but also very exciting and very engaging idea of, poetry as a means of social communication during this time of lockdown. And let me confess that this lockdown period has not been very bad for me. I've been quite productive. I've written some new poems. It has gifted, this solitude has gifted me some new poems. And it's also done something, I think it's done something for all of us, that it has jolted us, and it is rejigging. It is rejigging our ideas, our ethical consciousness, our moral stances, and it is also making us take a very strong and hard relook at our, often overrated and overblown personal needs, our overblown and overrated individualism. And I think what it is making us, it is having that sobering effect on us. It is making us realize that after all, we are all, creatures of nature. We are all interconnected and we all have to take care of each other. I hope you people can hear me.
Smita, may I interrupt and create a little obstacle in the way you and I often think? I wouldn't mind bringing in the notion of Smashan Vairagya in midst of all this, because all of us All of us जो इतने articulate है हम, we are so gifted with the way we use words that it is easy to fall into the trap of telling ourselves that here is a time to rethink the human history and the human civilization. But I
Yes.
think it requires much more introspection, a little bit of vipassana, and lot of chill beer.
बहुत अच्छा आपने बोला, बहुत अच्छा. तो मैं I'll begin with a
Please
poem of
read your
mine.
poems. Yes.
Yes, and this is a poem that I have recently written. The solitude, the isolation has made me rethink about love. So the poem is quite simply titled Love, and I'm going to read that.
Jarur.
So love. Love. What can one do with love? It knows no boundaries, blows like the air, is everywhere. Shape shifter like the amoeba, amorphous, atavistic, rudimentary, created by God, nature, or mind of man. Clear water, chilled in a crystal glass, offered to one out in the peak of summer under the subcontinental sun, or desert without shade or hope, where one must bake and burn. Sin or boon, insult or admiration, kiss or slap, balm or caustic. What can one do with love other than ruminate? This love should never have come. This love can never be complete. Let's just murmur under our breath, bite our lips or gnash our teeth. Be grateful for having had the chance to say, we love. Thank you.
Well, and that's a good feeling. Though I enjoy using the word affection more than love. A sense
Yes,
of
perhaps
affection.
at our age. Perhaps at our age, it should be
No,
affection,
I
it
think,
should be Vatsalya Ras now.
no, I think 75 is all right. I need 5 more lifetimes to speak about our age. Yes. But here is a poem I wrote when I watched Medha Patkar walking around. And here is a poem which is translated into Hindi, though I wrote it in Gujarati. The first line says that તારું બીજું પણ એક નામ છે નદી. तुम्हारा दूसरा भी एक नाम है नदी. मूड जाति पगडंडिया, जगह जगह छाया देते वृक्ष, उसमें मिल जाती भेड़ बकरियों की टोलियां, और शाम के प्रकाश में उजला गए पलथी मार कर बैठे टीले. ये सब तुम्हारे दोस्त. कल कल बहती नदी, दोनों किनारे फैली, शीतल धरती को भिगोती. और तुम, यानी कि ये सब तुम्हारे ही नाम है. वहां सुबह सुबह काम पर निकले किसान, वनवासी, अंग्रेजी या हिंदी न बोलने वाले मनुष्य, स्वजन. तुम्हारा और भी एक घर है जो आधी रात को मुख्य सड़क से दूर कच्चे रास्ते की ओर मुड़ जाता है. एसटी बसों में या रेल के दूसरे दर्जे के किसी डिब्बे के पटिए पर अपनी टिफिन में थाली पीठ और रूखी सूखी सब्जी और जोले का सिरहाना. सही बात है, स्वस्थता की तुम अनोखी छवि, सौम्य, निर्मल, विद्रोही, समस्ता की देहरी पर खड़ी जैसे एक भाषा, और वाणी बोले जाने पर गीत, और अन्यथा भीतर में चलती बातचीत. तुम्हारा और एक नाम होगा पंखी, और वो भी हवा के साथ बह आता, घर आंगन में सुस्ता लेता, जैसे हमारे ही पंख हम सबकी साथी. तुम सखी, तुम्हारा एक दूसरा नाम है नदी. ये है
बहुत बहुत
हमारी
बढ़िया,
अपनी मेधा पाटकर।
बहुत बढ़िया। ये आपने हिंदी में खुद ट्रांसलेट करी कि किसी से करवाई?
नहीं, जो हमारे दोस्त ज्योत्सना मिलन, आप शायद उनको जानते होंगे।
हाँ हाँ, जी जी
तो
जी
इस
जी
हमारी
जी।
सारी हिंदी कविता और गुजराती कविता को ज्योत्सना ने अनुवाद की है हिंदी में।
अच्छा अच्छा, हाँ हाँ, तभी तो इतना
आ,
बढ़िया अनुवाद हुआ है कि ऐसे लग रहा है
हम
कि आपने हिंदी में लिखा हो।
नहीं, हम गुजराती क्या हिंदी बोलेंगे, पर बोल लिया। अब आप
पर
सुनाए
आप,
कुछ।
जी, तो these days I am living in between two cities, Allahabad and Bombay, and I've written a poem on this. It's again a recent poem, and I've titled Allahabad to Bombay, Breathless.
श्योर।
Hit across the back of the head, pitched forward unceremoniously. Hit across the back of the head, pitched forward unceremoniously, from the hinterland to the littoral, still struggling to find her sea legs, learning to dog paddle, all wet and heavy, clamber onto weather-beaten boats, scraping shins and thighs against the wood's uneven skin. Plucked out of the north's climate extremes, plucked out of the north's climate extremes, baffled by genteel temperateness, baffled by genteel temperateness and the frenzied rain that drowns the concrete and glass city.
अरे
So
वाह।
it's just, yeah, it's just by chance, that I had to sort of be in between these two places. And from Allahabad, living in Mumbai, it's quite a cultural shock. And I think
Well,
that is what has gifted me
you
this
better
poem.
take care of the Nehru family now. They are being haunted, so it's a good idea to be taken care of them in Allahabad. Uh,
Yes, certainly.
yeah, here is a short poem about a friend who is no more. And I think it works well in the context of where we are. Though I like to suggest that we are always in this kind of limbo. It's a wonderful feeling to just be known that the whole world has joined us into into our journeys. But here is a poem. I'll read this in Gujarati. It probably doesn't require the English translation. Nathi, nathi sukh, nathi dukh, nathi nadi ke akash, nathi ghar ke baar, nathi, nathi jhaad ke paan, nathi tame, nathi hoon, nathi saanch ke sawal, nathi roop, nathi rang, nathi kaam, nathi raam, nathi naach, nathi gaan के भान, नथी त्यां, नथी आई, नथी आवन के जावन, नथी रावण, नथी हूं, नथी तमे, नथी कोई, नथी अमे, नथी तिथि के अतिथि, नथी हूं, नथी तमे, नथी अमे, छे आरंभથી જ છે ત્યાં છે. A poem for a friend who is no more.
ये मुझे बहुत, गुजराती तो मुझे नहीं समझ में आई, पर कुछ नेति नेति की तरह थी ये।
नथी, यस, नेति 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 की बात नहीं।
जी 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 जी। ये
नहीं
भी
सुख,
नहीं, ये भी नहीं,
नहीं
ये
सुख,
भी नहीं,
नहीं
ये
दुख,
भी नहीं।
नहीं नदी,
हाँ,
नहीं आकाश, नहीं घर, नहीं बार, नहीं पीड़ा, नहीं लीला,
वाह
नहीं झाड़, नहीं पान, नहीं आप, नहीं मैं, बस ये नहीं
वाह
नहीं की बात है।
वाह।
अगर
नहीं
अगर
नहीं से,
अगर फ्रेडरिक निश्चे आके हमारे साथ बैठे कहेंगे नादा नादा नादा, और हेमिंगवे भी कहने लगेंगे। पर देखिए
जी
हम कितने पढ़े लिखे हैं, बाहर नहीं निकल आ सकते पुस्तकों किताबों की दुनिया से, और ये किताब खाने की दुनिया में ही तो हो रहा है ये जादू।
हाँ, ये तो किताब खाना ने बहुत अच्छा एक मिरेकल करा है, एक जादू किया है। और अगर आपकी इजाजत हो तो फिर मैं एक और पोयम पढ़ूं, एक
नहीं,
अपना।
आपको अब गाना है, हमने सुना है आप बहुत अच्छा गा लेते हैं। शायद
गा तो
शायद शायद जावेद अख्तर बैठ के सुन रहा है, शायद गुलजार भी बैठे हैं सुनने को। जरूर गाइए।
अरे वाह अरे वाह।
और
तो
हमारे रवि बाबू तो बैठे ही होते हमेशा।
तो गाना तो अभी हम क्या गाएंगे उस तरह का एक है, एक हमारी पोयम है जिसको कि हम गाते हैं, अगर वो हमें मिल जाए तो हम उसको
जरूर।
गाते हैं जी। तो
हमारे
इसको
एक बहुत अच्छे दोस्त देवी प्रसाद मिश्रा भी अपनी कविताओं को कभी कभी तलत महमूद की आवाज में गाया करते हैं।
अरे वाह। अ, ये थोड़ा समय लग रहा है इसको ढूंढने में, पर ये चलिए मिल गई।
चलो, बहुत
इसको
अच्छी बात है।
इसको आई हैव टाइटल्ड बेगरी इन भटियाली।
हाँ।
So, and beggary in Bhatyali, and you know, it has that philosophy of the bowels that, you know, we actually require very little to, you know, live our life. You know, it's that kind of a philosophy that the poem incorporates. So,
আমি কোথায়
I'll
পাবো
sing.
আমার মনের মানুষ?
Ji, ji. So I'll sing it. Ta-na-na-na,
Yes.
tan-ta-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Ta-na-na-na, tan-ta-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Ta-na-na-na-na-na-na. Ta-na-na-na-na-na-na. Ta-na-na-na, tan-ta-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Ta-na-na-na-na-na-na. Desire a dwelling, burn down your heart. Ask for love, get the boot. Desire a dwelling,
क्या बात है?
burn down your heart. Ask for love, get the boot. Want money, lose your last penny. Couldn't care less, queen of the world. An open sky, the solid earth. Tin plate, enamel mug, an open sky, the solid earth. Tin plate, enamel mug, 3 grains of rice, 3 grains of rice. Zest of lemon are all I need for my confection, for my confection. Ta-na-na-na, tan-ta-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
क्या बात है?
तो चलिए, कविता ने हम लोग को एक दूसरे के पास किया, और म्यूजिक तो एक यूनिवर्सल लैंग्वेज ही है।
देखिए,
उसने
मैं
भी हम
देख
लोगों
रहा
को,
था बॉब डिलन भी आके बैठ गया है अपने पास।
अरे वाह
कोई
ये तो
सवाल ही
बहुत
नहीं
ही
है,
अच्छी
आपने
बात।
तो बस समझ लो कि एक फकीरी कर दी हमारे के बीच में। वंडरफुल, वंडरफुल।
ये तो आपकी यू नो आपका ग्रेस है कि वो
No,
ये
no,
सब मेरे लिए अच्छे
nothing
अच्छे
like
शब्द
that.
कह रहा है।
Nothing
It's
like
your
that.
grace.
Nothing like that. It's lovely to hear a poem being sung always. There is something remarkable about, Tarannum. Uh, so,
जी, और हमारी हिंदी और उर्दू कविता में तो ये ट्रेडिशन है ही है।
परंपरा
ये जो
रही है,
इंग्लिश
बहुत अच्छे।
कविता है, ये जो इंग्लिश कविता है जो मेजरली टेक्सचुअल है, इसमें ये नहीं है। तो चलिए थोड़ा बहुत चेंज इसमें भी ले आया जाए।
अरे वो भी रात दिन गाते ही रहते हैं।
तो अब आप कुछ पढ़ेंगे?
एक छोटी कविता है जो हमारे दोस्त तैयब मेहता की स्मृति में हमने लिखी है।
जी
वो
बिल्कुल
हमारे
बिल्कुल।
बहुत अच्छे दोस्त थे और उनका होना न होना अभी भी हमारी कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है। तो ये है
ये मैंने
तैयब
पढ़ी है,
मेहता।
ये मैंने पढ़ी है, आपकी इंटरनेट पे है कहीं।
अरे वाह, तो ये छोटी कविता है।
जी
આ હોવાનું તે શું છે જોવા જેવું, ઘર વિના પણ ચારે બાજુ રહેવા જેવું। આ જોવાનું તે શું છે કહેવા જેવું, ભીતરના બે ચાર સમયમાં વહેવા જેવું। આ કહેવાનું તે શું છે સાંભળવા જેવું, છેક સુધીના રૂપ રંગને ઝીલવા જેવું। આ સાંભળવું તે શું છે હોવા જેવું, એકમેકને સથવારે સાચવવા જેવું। ભાઈ, આ હોવાનું તે શું છે હોવા જેવું। And what is being worth seeing, worth staying all over even without a home? And what is seeing worth saying, worth flowing a few times within. And what's saying? Worth listening, worth capturing appearances to their very end. And what is listening? Worth being, worth letting things happen in the company of each other. And what is being? Oh, just being. That's it. ये होना भी क्या चीज है. Thank you, Smita.
Thank you so much. तो अभी हमारे पास समय है क्या? तो मैं एक
हमें
सिल्विया
बताया
प्लैथ
जाए तो हम चुप. मेरे ख्याल
Mansi,
से अभी.
please tell us, do we have time? Mansi, do we have time? Can I read a short poem
Please
that
do.
I have
Wow.
translated?
I'm sure.
So, I would like to read a Hindi translation of Sylvia Plath's Sheep in Fog. I'm very fond of this short poem of Sylvia Plath because it's
Sure.
given the times that we are in, it is an excellent example of how solitude, alienation, depression can produce great poetry. So I'll first read the poem in English. It's a short poem,
Sure.
and then I'll read my Hindi translation.
Jarur.
Sheep in Fog by Sylvia Plath. The hills step off into whiteness. People or stars regard me sadly. I disappoint them. The train leaves a line of breath. Oh, slow horse, the color of rust. Hooves, dolorous bells. All morning, the morning has been blackening a flower left out. My bones hold a stillness. The far fields melt my heart. They threaten to let me through to a heaven, starless and fatherless, a dark water. Now I'll read the Hindi translation done by me.
Yes.
Sheep in fog, कोहरे में भेड़. ये पहाड़ियां सफेदी में उतर जाती हैं. ये पहाड़ियां सफेदी में उतर जाती हैं. लोग और तारे मुझे उदास निगाहों से तकते हैं. मैं उन्हें निराश करती हूं. रेलगाड़ी एक सांस की लकीर छोड़ती है. रेलगाड़ी एक सांस की लकीर छोड़ती है. ओ धीमे घोड़े जंक के रंग के, खुर मायूस घंटियां सुबह से सुबह काला करती जा रही है एक फूल जो छूट गया. मेरी हड्डियों में निस्तब्धता थमी है. दूर के खेत मेरे दिल पिघला रहे हैं, धमकाते हैं मुझे एक ऐसे स्वर्ग की ओर, ताराहीन पिताहीन एक काला पानी. थैंक यू.
ये सिल्विया प्लाथ और टेड ह्यू की कहानी भी कमाल की कहानी है.
जी बिल्कुल.
ये जो हम मध्यम वर्गीय सुखी जीव जो है, जो घर में बैठे हैं और बहुत सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग की सारी परिभाषा को जानते हैं, पर एक ऐसी मनपसंद उदासी को लेके बैठे रहते हैं कि उसकी बात कुछ करनी चाहिए अगर हो सके इतनी, ताकि once in a while it's such a good idea to be in a confessional mode right in front of the world, and you can't think of a better example than that of Gandhi. So I have been going through some remarkable texts of Gandhi and his deadly and ruthless honesty with the self. So here is a short poem about that ruthless honesty. Most of these poems were written when I was studying in the US, but here is one. પતંગનો પણ ઉત્સવ છે, દુઃખનું પણ એક ઘર છે, સમજનો પણ પુલ છે, આંખને પણ એક મન છે. રહ્યા તો રહ્યા ગંગાને ચંગા નાયા, સુખનો પણ ભ્રમ છે. શબ્દની ગમ્મત, શૂન્યનો પણ રંગ છે. પતંગનો પણ ઉત્સવ છે, દુઃખનું પણ એક ઘર છે, સમજનો પણ પુલ છે, આંખને પણ મન છે. રહ્યા તો રહ્યા ગંગાને ચંગા નાહ્યા, સુખનો પણ ભ્રમ છે. શબ્દની ગમ્મત, શૂન્યનો પણ રંગ છે. So one more poem from you, Smita.
अब आपने गांधी जी की बात करी है तो हमने भी गांधी जी पे एक पोयम लिखी थी, जो कि हमारी 2002 की जो बुक छपी थी विश ग्रांटिंग वर्ड्स रविदयाल पब्लिशर से, उसमें वो इंक्लूडेड थी. और खुशवंत सिंह जी को ये बहुत पसंद आई क्योंकि सैटिरिक है, आयरनिक है और गांधी जी की लाइफ को एक ट्विस्ट देती है, तो उनको ये बहुत पसंद आई थी. सो आई विल रीड दैट पोयम.
Please do, please do.
कड़ी से कड़ी जुड़ रही है, आपका जो थॉट प्रोसेस चल रहा है उसी से हम भी जुड़ रहे हैं, आपसे हम लीड ले रहे हैं, आपसे हम सीख ले रहे हैं.
इरशाद.
So this is called February 1944. Kasturba talks of life with Gandhi. Kasturba talks of life with Gandhi. He began to mumble, "This thing that rages within me, I must kill it. It's not that I don't desire you. I still do. But it affects my concentration, my assiduousness. Bah, you must understand." I was only half listening. My back to him, squatting on the floor, I was bending over the coal stove, worrying about my Ram Das's fever. He'd always been a bit odd. 7 times round a fire and we were wed. "Now I'll live the life of a celibate," he said. "I'll feed and clothe you, and that's that." Back in India for good, once again there was traveling, meetings, satyagrahas, and when that thing raged within me, I would stand behind a curtain and gaze at young Jawahar or the stodgy Patel. Sometimes one of them would look up. Then I'd have to leave. From behind some barred window, watch the light angle across the yard. It's not our practice to shut doors for privacy. And I was too correct to recall that one childhood memory when bathing in the creek, half a mile off the town, my friend Mithu and I, both of us then aged 9, had deliberately, out of sheer curiosity, touched each other in places, all the while giggling uncontrollably. So
Wow.
in this poem, I've tried to sort of look at Kasturba's sexuality. I mean, Gandhi took the decision that he would be celibate, but he never consulted her. And what must have been the impact on her? That is what the poem tries to explore.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, look, these are some of the most difficult ways by which we make sense of fellow human beings whom we deeply admire for the life they have led, but whose personal lives often perplex us and leave us baffled. And the best response could be utmost honesty about those questions that I've seen in this poem. You know, it so happens that it is so wonderful to recollect a deep friendship with a man called Ramachandra Gandhi, the philosopher, Devdas Bhai's son, the youngest son of Gandhi. And I thought Kasturba would, of course, was ready to scold Gandhi every day in her life about what he did to Haridas, but that's another story. Mansi, do we have time? We have been going on, and we are beginning to like seeing ourselves on the screen. So don't make us so self-intoxicating, self-indulgent creatures. Do we go on?
Why don't you read Still Water?
Okay, there you are. Here is still water. First, I'll
Yes,
read it
that's
in
an
English.
excellent.
I'll read this in
Yes,
English.
yes.
Still water. At this moment, I proclaim myself a drummer poet. At this moment, when history is a trance, an epiphany of marijuana, perched on the carpet of this flying saucer, this silo of piano notes, I proclaim myself a warrior in the field of words. In the acid rock word flowing by, having drunk the summer of my hopelessness, here in the field Shiva lies, after smoking hash under the moon's soft glare. I hear winged echoes of his sleep. I hack through the gateways of my body and enter those echoes. The sastras of stupor grow under the eyelids. You send the Vedic sloks surging like electric current through your every home. Still water, at last I have woken up today to sing your song. I, a drummer poet, percussionist of the damru, wailing voice of the navel, in the African beat, I find myself today. America, not of Mr. Trump, nor of Mr. Nixon, foreign drum beats shall proclaim this today. I sing here to immortalize the tender trees of your highways, the tender trees that hide and play tennis in the shadow of your giant chemical plants. Still water, I declare myself to be a Nagara Kavi this morning. Thank you. So here is,
Fantastic, fantastic. I think this poem of yours is very relevant to Corona times and also the times politically that have preceded Corona times. And you know, because it has such a apocalyptic image in it, and I mean lines like when history is in a trance, an epiphany of marijuana. I mean, these are lines that just stick in the mind, and you know, they resonate in the mind over and over again. It's a beautiful poem. Thank you so much for writing it, and thank you so much for sharing it with us today.
no,
And
don't give
i'll
me.
now
Yes,
i'll
but
now
one more
read a
poem,
poem.
maybe. Please do.
Yes, I'll
Please do.
just read one poem which, you know, looks at what we have done to the environment, what we have done to our ecology. We need to be thinking really hard on these things. And this poem, titled Earth Day, takes a satiric look at this situation. So the poem is called Earth Day. The river's been packed in a Samsonite, folded like the pleats of a sari, doubled up and shut. Mountain ranges have been dismantled and sent to jail. Grasslands are being forced to migrate as they follow a different religion. Trees are subjected to lashings, stand around doing nothing, lazy buggers. Flowers, if they survive the smog of persecution, will be dyed pale by the establishment. Fruit and vegetable are put in straitjackets, then injected with arsenic. Butterfly and beetle are being transported to gas chambers. Cows and buffaloes are greeted with bouquets and classical music, then invited to a sumptuous lunch. All large animals have been successfully radicalized to commit jawhar. Peacocks, because they are celibate and spiritual, are being considered for a rise in pay. Oxygen has been convinced it's carbon monoxide. It must exit the planet. Finally, women are being conditioned to say, we love to be groped and raped. And love, that smart Alec, is on his way to a newly discovered galaxy which supports life. He'll settle down there, self-fertilize, produce yet another army of callous progeny. Thank you. So
Yes.
we really don't know
Smita,
whether we are. Yeah,
Smita,
please go on.
this brings back memories of a book that I had come across long time ago, decades ago. That betrays decades ago, suggests when it must have been. There was a book by a feminist writer called "In the Name of Love," and I think in the name of consuming the world, we have damaged it thoroughly. You have to remember the crisis of civilization, the last of the essay that Tagore wrote in 1941, and it brings back the memories of those kind of predicaments that were kind of forced from our own side of the world. Okay, so do we have time? I mean, we were given 30 minutes now. Don't be so kind and spoil us. Also, I wouldn't mind a cup of coffee. Okay. 5 more minutes. Mansi, you've been wonderful. So I better write new poems now. It's time. Okay. So here is my prayer. Can I read a prayer? It's called Prarthana. મને તારી સામે જોવાની શક્તિ આપ. Grant me the strength to look at you, to bear the brightness of the sun. Grant me to be alert to faraway ships, to be a pearl diver, to drive a toy train, to cross a famine. Give me an illusion again. I am no Socrates, but grant me the vision so that I may hear the sound of and the swim in the currents of half-open landscapes of French poets floating away in my blood. Grant me an alphabet of an airplane, of the city, of being able to sit by my aging grandmother. Grant me the illusion of a ladder to climb to you, to myself, to us. Grant me the strength to look at you. Okay. I don't see Smita. What happened, Smita? Don't tell me that you're visiting the river. I don't see you. Okay, thank you. Amin. Thank you. I'm so Areva. So good to see Geeta listening to poetry. Oh, wonderful. It's like sitting in TIFR and Ira will get us. I can sense that. Yeah, it's time for Sridhar to sing a song now. I'm still on. Yes. Totally, she says. Geeta, yes, totally. I've always been telling you that you could be writing poems. These are the days and time. Yes, Nikhil, good to see you. I don't say ha 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 to everything that I say. Okay. Well, you think there is time for me to read a poem? Yes. Okay. Can we say goodbye now? Okay. Thank you.